Okay, participants, all of our conflicts have cleared, so I will now introduce the Honorable Judge Kelly LaFave, who will be presiding over your proceeding today. And I'll remind you that only the two participants and the witnesses ought to have their cameras on as we're presenting, and that everyone else will go ahead and turn their cameras and their sound off. And obviously, Judge LaFave can have her camera on as well. So with that, Your Honor, we'll turn it over to you.
Judge, you're muted.
You know, that happens to me all the time in court. We're going to get started with a few reminders, and then we'll swear everybody in, and then we'll get started with the opening statements. Folks, any disputes arising out of the competition must be reported in accordance with the competition rules. Time requirements will be considered in scoring each individual performance. Can the teams go ahead and announce their team members, starting with the prosecution, please?
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Aiden Routson for the prosecution. Today, I will be performing the direct examination of investigator Kyle Kuzak, as well as the cross-examination of the defendant Avery Becker. And additionally, I will be delivering the closing argument. May my co-counsel please be permitted to introduce themselves.
Certainly.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Annie Entner. I will direct Alex Cifuentes and cross Taylor Perkins and deliver the opening statement.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Nina Lawson, and I'm for the prosecution. Today, I'll be performing the direct examination of Jordan Markowitz and the cross-examination of Blake Van Owen. May our witnesses be permitted to introduce themselves?
Please.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Emily Rosenberg, and I am Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Logan Piscadlo, and I am Kyle Kuzak.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Abby Sears, and I'm Alex Cifuentes.
All right, and now the defense, please.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Hannah Abraham, and today I will be performing the direct examination of Blake Van Owen, as well as the cross-examination of Kyle Kuzak. May my co-counsel please be permitted to introduce themselves?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Owen Pontius. I will be conducting the direct examination of Taylor Perkins and the cross-examination of Alex Cifuentes along with the closing statement.
Good morning, Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. My name is Ella Iveslot, and I will be performing the direct examination of Avery Becker and the cross-examination of Jordan Markowitz, as well as conducting the opening statement. May my witnesses please introduce themselves?
Yes, please.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Quincy Nguyen, and I am Professor Blake Van Owen. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Charlie Courts, and I am Taylor Perkins.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Isabella Spencer, and I am Avery Becker.
All right, thank you, folks. If all of you can put your videos on and raise your right hands so I can swear you all in. All right, team members, do you promise that the presentation that you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? Everybody's nodding. All right, and witnesses, now raise your right hands. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained within the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition? All right, thank you. You folks can close down your videos. Scoring panelists, if you can all please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and the rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
All right. Does the prosecution have any matters we need to take care of prior to beginning the case?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, the prosecution asks that the stipulations be entered into evidence.
They shall be entered.
And additionally, the prosecution requests permission to constructively publish the exhibits to the jury after admission.
Certainly.
And finally, I would ask to reserve any remaining time after the closing argument for a rebuttal close.
You can.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Does the defense have any preliminary matters before we begin?
Yes, the defense requests that all witnesses are allowed a copy of the exhibit packets and personal witness statements.
Certainly. Anything else, counsel?
No, nothing further.
Thank you. Is the prosecution ready to proceed with their opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
You may proceed when you're ready, counsel.
Thank you. May it please the court. Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Annie Entner, and I represent the state in the case against defendant Avery Becker. Members of the jury, this is a case about one thing: bad decisions. Nobody has to be a bad person to make bad decisions. And today you will hear how the defendant made one bad decision after another, which led to her murdering her mock trial coach, Mackenzie Brackman. Today you will hear evidence that proves the defendant is guilty in 3 ways. First, the evidence points to the defendant. Second, the crime scene and other evidence was analyzed by 2 expert witnesses. And third, the defendant had a strong motive. The defendant knew Mr. Brackman because she was on Mr. Brackman's mock trial team at Colorado High School. The 2 often argued, however, because Mr. Brackman did not think that the defendant put in the work that she should have for the team. After the situation escalated further, the defendant was demoted to B team, and after that was eventually kicked off the team. The night that the defendant was publicly kicked off the team and humiliated, she stormed off into the school parking lot and wrote on Mr. Brackman's car. And this destruction of property was only the beginning. On March 6, 2020, Mr. Brackman was found dead in his house just a few days after the defendant threatened to trash his house. For the defendant, one bad decision led to another. Arguing led to frustration and anger. Frustration and anger led to led to vandalism. Vandalism led to threats, and threats led to murder. A murder that brings us here today. A murder where the evidence clearly proves the defendant is guilty. First, you will hear how the police collected and analyzed this cell phone tower data to figure out that the defendant's phone went from the defendant's house to Mr. Brackman's house on the day of the murder. Second, you will hear how 2 expert witnesses, Detective Markowitz and Investigator Kuzak, followed the evidence at the crime scene and outside of the crime scene. You will hear how at the crime scene, they analyzed the knives, which was the weapon used during the murder, broken plate on the floor, and blood splatter. Outside of the crime scene, you will hear how both of them analyzed and collected the cell tower details and call detail records for the defendant's phone. Third, you will hear from the defendant's best friend and teammate give an account of how the defendant made one bad decision after another and was proud and angry, and how one bad decision led to another. On March 6, 2020, Mackenzie Brackman was murdered in his home by the hand of his student, Avery Becker. The evidence today will show that it is clear that the defendant killed Mr. Brackman because of her pride and anger. Members of the jury, at the end of the trial today, we will ask you to vote in favor of the state by finding defendant Avery Becker guilty of murder in the first degree and guilty of attempting to commit second-degree burglary because of her bad choices. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to make an opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed with my opening statement?
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, and members of the jury, my name is Ella Ivesot, and I am here to bring justice to the innocent Avery Becker. On March 6, 2020, Becker's mock trial coach, Mackenzie Brackman, was found ruthlessly murdered inside of his own home. Becker, who was not even at the scene of the crime at the time of the murder, was wrongfully framed for felony murder and second-degree burglary. She rightfully refuses to plead guilty for one simple reason. She did not kill Mr. Brackman. Avery Becker is innocent, and the prosecution will not be able to prove her guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You will find that their witness testimonies are biased, full of fallacies, and otherwise in contrast to the actual events leading up to Mackenzie Brackman's unfortunate death. In actuality, Becker had lost her phone, and at the time of the murder, Becker and her friend Taylor Perkins were searching for it. And let me make one thing clear. A permanent marker is not a knife. To prove Becker's complete innocence in the case of the murder of Mr. Brackman, the defense will call upon 3 witnesses. The first witness will be Professor Blake Van Owens, an experienced scholar and private investigator. The prosecution will try to use Blake Van Owens' history against her, but do not forget that an individual's character can never be defined by a single mistake, and her lengthy list of success makes her a trustworthy witness in support of Becker's testimony. She paints the investigative process as rushed and tainted by bias and motive, an act of treason against the justice system. She will spark doubt in your mind about the reliability of Markowitz's cell tower data. The second witness will be Taylor Perkins, Avery Becker's self-proclaimed best friend and mock trial teammate. She herself was with Becker at the time of Brackman's murder, serving as concrete proof of Becker's total innocence. She will demonstrate the motive of Alex Cifuentes to see the downfall of Avery Becker. To asseverate, Perkins and Becker were not at the scene of the crime on March 6, 2020, but rather looking for Becker's phone that mysteriously went missing after a brief interaction with Alex Cifuentes. Finally, you will hear from Avery Becker herself. While she certainly does not have the best relationship with Coach Brackman, Becker would never kill. The only guilt she has, in which she regrets immensely, is for accidentally riding on Brackman's car with a permanent marker, a mistake the prosecution will be sure to use in their argument. Yet, one must remember that their argument is nothing but a slippery slope fallacy. Correlation does not equal causation. Regardless, Becker upholds the testimonies of the other witnesses that she was not at Brackman's house on March 6, 2020, nor did she murder him in cold blood. And certainly, Becker couldn't have logically killed Brackman if she wasn't at the scene of the crime in the first place. The prosecution will not be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Becker is responsible for the heartless murder of Coach Brackman. As you will find, there are too many holes in the prosecution's case for it to hold true. Members of the jury, the facts and evidence provided lie in favor of Avery Becker, that she was not at the scene of the crime on March 6, 2020, and thus she is not guilty of murder in the first degree and burglary in the second degree. Based on the strong evidence you will hear, at the end of the trial, the defense will ask you to rule in favor of the innocent Avery Becker, who is wrongfully accused of the despicable murder of an experienced attorney and dedicated mock trial coach. It is your job as the jury to ensure that the right person is prosecuted and that an innocent girl with a bright future is not sacrificed due to a rushed trial. While Becker is innocent, the defense wishes nothing but peace for the friends and family of Brackman and wants nothing more than to see the murderer, the real murderer, pay for their wrongdoings. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Is the prosecution ready to proceed with their case?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Detective Jordan Markowitz to the stand.
Ms. Markowitz, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Counsel, you may begin when you're ready.
Will you please state your name for the court?
My name is Jordan Markowitz.
Can you talk about your job experience?
Yes, I've worked with the Denver Police Department for around 13 years now and spent 7 of those years as a homicide detective.
And do you hold any special certifications?
Yes, I hold certifications in cell phone technology and forensic data recovery.
Can you talk about the training you had to complete in order to obtain this certification?
Yes, I had to go through an in-depth training course with the American Academy of Law Enforcement and pass the certification test.
And what does this certification entail?
I am proficient in analyzing cell phone technology and using forensic software such as the Celebrite system to obtain cell phone data. This also allows me to interpret cell tower data.
And how often have you used this in your professional experience?
I have used it in over 50 cases and I continue to use it on a regular basis.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to submit for the approval of Jordan Markowitz as an expert in the field of cell phone technology and forensic data recovery pursuant to Rule 702.
Is there any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
She shall so be qualified.
Thank you. Can you describe when you were called to investigate this case?
Yes, on Friday, March 6, 2020, I was called to investigate this case after a motorist saw an unconscious person outside of the Brackman's residence.
Can you describe what you observed when you first arrived on the scene?
When I first arrived on the scene, I noticed the victim was face down in a pool of blood and the front door was wide open. I also noticed a Ring doorbell. I decided to look further into this and it ultimately showed the intruder.
What did you find when you looked at Mackenzie Brackman's Ring account?
I found out that he had been paying an extra monthly fee to keep records of all recorded videos from the Ring doorbell.
Were you able to access any other data from Mr. Brackman's phone?
Yes, I was able to access his photos, text messages, and the data stored on his apps.
Can you describe what you saw while looking through the data from his phone?
Yes, I noticed that he had been receiving a lot of text messages from a group chat called Mock Trial. I decided to research this further and I discovered that he was a mock trial coach for CHS.
And what did you do after discovering that Mr. Brackman was a mock trial coach?
I immediately contacted the school to get the contact information for everyone on the team. I started by calling Alex Cifuentes.
And what did you learn after speaking with Alex Cifuentes?
I learned that a student named Avery Becker had recently been kicked off of the team for vandalizing Mackenzie Brackman's car. Becker had also sent a text message to Cifuentes stating that she was going to trash Brackman's house.
And what did you do next after conducting the interview with Alex?
I obtained the defendant's phone number and I also obtained a court order to get the cell phone account records and cell detail records from Becker's phone.
What are cell detail records?
Cell detail records is when you place a call or text, a record of this event is created. It shows whether it was incoming or outgoing, the number of the other phone involved, and the cell tower in which it was communicating through.
Do you have access to Exhibits 15 and 16?
Yes.
Does the opposing counsel in court have access to what has been previously marked as Exhibits 15 and 16?
The court does. Go ahead.
Detective Markowitz, do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes.
What are these exhibits?
These diagrams show the cell records for March 6, 2020.
And who created these diagrams?
These are my diagrams that depict the defendant's phone communication and location on March 6, 2020.
Did these diagrams assist you in forming your expert opinion regarding this case?
Yes.
And have these maps been altered in any way?
No.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibits 15 and 16 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibits 15 and 16 shall be admitted.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 15?
Certainly.
Can you describe what this exhibit shows?
Yes, this is a cell detail record and it shows the cell communication and the cell towers through which Becker's phone was communicating on March 6, 2020.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 16?
Certainly.
Can you describe what this exhibit shows?
Yes, it's the same diagram as Exhibit 15, except it includes the most probable route in which the defendant would have taken to get to Brackman's house.
And what do these records indicate?
They indicate that Taylor Perkins first sent a text message to Avery Becker using the cell tower covering Becker's house. The next communication went through the antenna covering Rock Creek Parkway, and the next communications went through the cell tower covering Brackman's home.
What did the cell detail records from the defendant's phone show you?
They showed me that Taylor Perkins had tried to contact Avery Becker through texts and calls before and even after the murder, but none of these were ever answered.
In your expert opinion, what conclusions did you come to after looking at these records?
I came to the conclusion that Avery Becker's cell phone was at Mackenzie Brackman's house during the time of the murder on March 6, 2020.
And what did you do after forming this conclusion?
After forming this conclusion and based on of our evidence, we ruled Avery Becker as the prime suspect in this case and arrested her and charged her with first-degree murder and second-degree burglary.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready.
Miss Markowitz, did you observe blood at the scene of the murder?
Yes.
And might you have any permanent or visible record of these examples of blood at the scene of the murder? Yes or no, please?
No.
Thank you. Moving on. Did you ever interview Taylor Perkins?
I did not.
And do you know if Taylor Perkins was in school on March 6th?
I do not.
And is there any explanation you can think of for why Taylor Perkins called Avery Becker's cell phone multiple times on March 6th?
No.
And Avery Becker claims to have lost her phone on March 5th. Did you disregard this as a possible explanation?
Yes.
Continuing on, Alex Cifuentes was the first person you interviewed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So is it safe to say that Alex Cifuentes really guided the direction of your investigation?
Yes.
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, the next couple questions that I have in my lineup will prove to you that this is not speculation and rather an area that the witness will understand and be able to give a proper response to.
Response?
She's asking my witness if a high school student had guided her investigation and asking if she based her conclusions off of that, which I find to be speculative.
Overruled, I'll allow that answer.
Alex Cifuentes was the first one who gave you the lead on Avery Becker, correct?
Yes.
Then Markowitz, can you say with certainty that Alex Cifuentes did not guide your investigation that pinned Avery Becker as a murderer?
Yes.
You can say with absolute, I'll move on. Did Alex Cifuentes bring his cell phone, the same cell phone with incriminating evidence, to his interview with you?
No, he did not.
Do most interviewees at Cifuentes' age bring their phones to interviews?
Yes, but I understand that teenagers can be very forgetful.
Alex Cifuentes finally provided you with a copy of the messages he alleged were sent by Avery Becker the day after the interview, correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, let the record reflect that I am under the understanding that the witness in their possession has a clean and unmarked copy of what has previously been marked as Exhibit 14. Ms. Markowitz, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes.
What is this exhibit?
These are the text messages from Avery to Alex Cifuentes.
Your Honor, the defense moves to submit Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 14 shall be admitted.
Is there a date on this screenshot?
No.
And you were able to obtain a court order for Avery Becker's phone and cell tower records, correct?
Yes.
And did you by any chance ever download Alex Cifuentes' call detail records?
No.
Markowitz, is it difficult to program the name Avery Becker as the contact for someone on a phone?
No, but I did not think that Alex Cifuentes...
A yes or no will suffice there. Thank you, Ms. Markowitz. So, can you say for certainty that Becker was the sender of the text shown in Alex's screenshots? A yes or no answer here too.
Can you please repeat the question?
So, can you say for certainty that Becker was the sender of the text shown in Alex's screenshots?
No.
Call detail records contain information about both numbers involved in the communication, correct?
Yes.
However, according to the information you had in your call detail records, if you had downloaded Cifuentes' CDR, you would have been able to say for certainty whether or not the screenshots that Cifuentes has provided to the court showed a conversation with Avery Becker, correct?
Objection, speculation.
Response?
Your Honor, this is an area of Ms. Markowitz's expertise. I am simply asking her if CDRs contain a valuable piece of information, and then asking her that if these CDRs had been found, if they would have provided the information that she had previously stated to the court that they do provide, that would have assisted us in declaring whether or not Avery Becker was the perpetrator of this crime.
Response?
This is merely a hypothesis. She's asking if she had obtained these records, what would they prove? And there's no way for her to make an observation because she had never got those records.
She can answer the question if she can.
Can you please repeat the question?
So based on the fact that you previously stated that CDRs contain information about both numbers involved in the communication, if you had downloaded Alex Cifuentes' CDR, would you have been able to say for certainty whether or not the screenshot showed a conversation with Avery Becker?
I'm not sure since I did not do this.
Continuing on, Markowitz, why did you only download the records of Avery Becker, neglecting the possibility of conclusive records of Cifuentes?
I only, because Alex had most of the evidence that I needed, and Avery did, so I did not feel the need to download Alex's as well.
And continuing on, did you download the CDR of Taylor Perkins?
No.
And would Taylor Perkins' CDR have confirmed or denied Avery's alibi?
I'm not sure since I did not do this.
Do CDRs contain the location of a particular communication?
Yes.
So then, would Avery's CDR been able to tell you whether or not she was at the mall on March 6, 2020?
I'm not sure since I didn't do this.
Continuing on, do cell phones always connect with the nearest cell tower?
Most of the time, yes.
And you stated that cell phones may not connect to the nearest tower if, and I quote, a lot of people are using their cell phones in a particular area, end quote. And a cell phone might connect with a further tower that is less busy, correct?
Yes.
Would you consider a mall a place where many individuals would be using their phone?
Yes.
Markowitz, do you have a clean and unmarked copy of Exhibit 15 in your possession?
Yes.
There's a mall located right next to Tower 11911, correct?
Correct.
So is it possible that a phone might connect to a further tower due to this high density area?
Yes.
Markowitz, along with the cell tower data, both Becker's house and Rollins' house share the same nearest cell tower, correct?
Correct.
Despite the possibility that Blair Rollins could have taken the same route as Becker to get to Mackenzie Brackman's house, you never mentioned Rollins in your affidavit, correct?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Does the prosecution wish to call another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Investigator Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
Investigator Kuzak, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth,
Yes.
and nothing but the truth? Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Kuzak, please state your name and spell your last for the record of the court.
Kyle Kuzak, K-U-Z-A-K.
Mrs. Kuzak, what is your current occupation?
I am a certified crime scene reconstruction investigator at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation.
Can you describe what experience you have had while doing this job?
Yes, I have 19 years of experience of investigating complex crime scenes such as home invasions, armed robberies, fatal accidents, and more.
What are your responsibilities as a crime scene reconstruction investigator?
First, I assume every case is going to trial, and starting from day one, I document, organize, and memorize all of the evidence with the mindset of future reconstruction.
Are there any specific processes or routines that you've become prone to using throughout these 19 years of experience?
Yes.
What might those be?
I follow the Tom Bevel and Ross Gardner 7-step methodology, which includes making flowcharts and worksheets to apply to scientific methods to difficult sequences. This process creates more investigative questions, therefore creating a more comprehensive analysis of this case.
And do these help you to gain a better understanding of this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702 of the Federal Rules of Evidence, at this time, the prosecution moves to have investigator Kyle Kuzak admitted as an expert in the field of crime scene reconstruction.
Any objection from the defense?
No objections, Your Honor.
She shall so be qualified.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Kuzak, do you have an accurate understanding of the facts of this case?
Yes, I visited the homicide at 444 South Flower Street after it was processed by other members of the crime lab. I also reviewed all of the police reports, in this case, the photographs and the 4-ring security systems.
And did you examine all evidence in this case?
Yes.
Do you have access to what had been previously marked as Exhibits 10, 11, and 12?
Yes.
Does the opposing counsel and court have access to these exhibits?
Yes, counsel, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Kuzak, do you recognize these exhibits?
Yes.
Have you reviewed these exhibits prior to the court proceedings today?
Yes.
Without going into detail of what these exhibits show, can you please explain what these exhibits are?
These videos are security camera footage taken from the ring security cameras from the Brackman's residence.
Did these exhibits help you to form an expert opinion in this case?
Yes.
And have they been altered in any way, shape, or form?
No, they have not.
Your Honor, at this time, the prosecution moves to have exhibits 10, 11, and 12 entered into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
10, 11, and 12 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, may I please have permission to screen share Exhibit 10?
Certainly.
Can everyone see what has been previously marked as Exhibit 10?
You're fine. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Kuzak, can you describe what you see in this exhibit?
Yes. A perpetrator wearing a mask and gloves approaches the Brackman's residence. He appears to look in the front door, then proceeds down south of the residence.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 11.
Certainly.
Investigator Kuzak, can you please describe what you observed from this exhibit?
Yes, the same perpetrator from Exhibit 10 appears to have opened the back gate and proceeds into the backyard of the Brackman's residence.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 12.
Certainly.
Investigator Kuzak, can you please describe what you observed from this exhibit?
Yes, the same perpetrator from Exhibits 10 and 11. He opens the back glass sliding door of the residence and proceeds into the house. The glass sliding door also makes a considerable amount of noise when it is opened.
What expert opinion did these exhibits help you to form?
These videos were a crucial part of the investigation that helped me form two main conclusions. The first being that the perpetrator in these videos are matching the general height and size of the defendant. And the second, with the most compelling evidence, is that the perpetrator has had previous knowledge of the Brackman's residence. These videos assisted greatly during this reconstruction process. They helped me understand how the perpetrator got into the Brackman's residence, and they also helped me understand how easily they got to the back entrance.
Investigator Cusack, do you have access to a copy of Exhibit 8?
Yes, I do.
Does the court and opposing counsel have access to this exhibit?
Yes, counsel, proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Cusack, will you please reference this exhibit?
Yes.
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes, I do.
Without going into detail of what this exhibit shows, can you describe what this exhibit is?
It is a picture of the knife block from the Brackman's residence.
Did this photo assist you in forming an expert opinion in this case?
Yes, it did.
And has it been altered in any way, shape, or form?
No, it has not.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 8 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, at this time...
Exhibit 8 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, may I have permission to screen share Exhibit 8?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Cusack, what do you observe from this photo?
The thing that sticks out to me the most about this knife block is the missing knife is where a large chef's knife should go.
And why is that significant?
The knife the same size as the missing knife was retrieved out of Mr. Brackman's body as the murder weapon.
Was the knife used as the murder weapon the same brand as the other knives in this block?
No, it was not.
Does this affect your conclusions about what happened?
No, it did not, because during my reconstruction process, I noticed that there was an open knife drawer full of mismatched knives. It is clear that Mr. Brackman had many different brands of knives, so it does not affect my conclusion that this knife came from the house.
What information did you gather from examining all other evidence in this case?
On the afternoon of March 6, 2020, a perpetrator matching the general size and build of the defendant approached the victim's residence with prior knowledge of the property. The perpetrator did not leave as much physical evidence as I would like them to, but they never do. So what are you going to do? What I do know is that there were scuff marks on the floor, a broken plate, video surveillance, and more, which all indicate...
Objection, Your Honor. Narrative.
Response?
Your Honor, my witness is explaining an expert theory in this case.
Response?
The witness is explaining the narrative of what happened, and therefore I stand by my objection.
Overruled. She may answer.
Thank you. Would you like me to start from the beginning?
Whichever you are more comfortable with, Investigator Cusack.
Okay, I'll start from where I left off. So they all indicate that Mr. Brackman was alerted by the intruder's presence by the ring security footage notification. Then Mr. Brackman proceeded to grab a knife from the knife block as indicated by Exhibit 8. The two began in physical altercation as demonstrated by the broken plate and the scuff marks on the floor. The intruder then gained possession of the knife, stabbing Mr. Brackman and fleeing the scene, leaving him to die.
Investigator Cusack, did you look into any other possible theories about what could have happened?
Yes, I did.
What other theories did you investigate?
I investigated the Blake Van Owens theory that Mr. Brackman was stabbed while he was sitting at his kitchen table.
Do you agree with this theory?
No, I do not.
And why is that?
Blake Van Owens' theory indicates that Mr. Brackman was surprised by the intruder's presence in his home. I disregarded this theory for two main reasons. First, ring security cameras come equipped with motion detectors that send alerts to the homeowner's phone when motion is detected. And second, Mr. Brackman would have been alerted by the intruder's presence when he opened the glass sliding door. I mean, we all saw Exhibit 12, the glass sliding door makes a considerable amount of noise. Blake Van Owens.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Mr. Routson?
Yes, Your Honor. My witness is elaborating on other theories explained in this case, as she has already been entered as an expert in the reconstruction of this case and is explaining where she finds fallacy in other areas.
Overruled. She may answer.
Thank you. So Mr. Backman would have been alerted by the glass sliding door. In Exhibit 12, it indicated the glass sliding door makes a considerable amount of noise. And also, Blake Van Owen's theory does not account for the scuff marks on the floor or the broken plate. Frankly, Blake Van Owen's theory is laughably flawed.
Investigator Cusack, did you investigate and reconstruct this case to the best of your ability?
Yes, I did.
And do you believe your investigation was successful?
I do. The evidence compiled to the points of sequences of events that I testified to in court today.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you. Ms. Cusack, you have previously identified Exhibit 8, but do you also have a clean and unmarked copy of Exhibit 6 in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Can you identify that exhibit?
Yes, it is the murder weapon.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 6 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 6 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cusack, does the removed knife in Exhibit 6 match the knives in the knife block shown in Exhibit 8?
No, but as I said earlier, that Mr. Backman has a bunch of different brands of knives, so it does not matter that it does not match.
A yes or no answer, please. Do you think it's possible that the knife came from somewhere other than the block?
That is possible.
Yes or no? Do you think it's possible the knife came from the opened knife drawer with the assorted knives?
That is possible.
Yes or no? Is it possible that the murderer brought the knife along with them?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Is it possible that the murderer brought the knife along with them?
That is possible, but we don't know because we cannot.
Yes or no will suffice. Thank you so much. I'd like to move on to the scuff marks found on the victim's floor. Let the record reflect that the witness should be looking at a clean and unmarked copy of Exhibit 18. Ms. Cusack, can you please identify this exhibit?
Can you hold on 1 second? I need to get to there.
Yes.
All right, I am there.
Are you familiar with this exhibit?
Yes, I am.
Please identify it for the court.
These are scuff marks on the floor.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 18 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 18 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cusack, can scuff marks be dated?
No, they cannot.
And yes or no, is it possible that those scuff marks could have been made a month ago, a year ago, or even longer before that?
It is possible, but we don't know.
Yes or no will suffice. Thank you.
Objection, argumentative.
Response?
I asked the witness for a yes or no response, and I was simply finished with her answer.
Sustained. When you ask questions, don't argue back with her after she answers the question.
Ms. Cusack, are you familiar with the Ring doorbell system?
I am.
And yes or no, do you know whether Mackenzie Brockman had set up his app to receive Ring notifications?
Yes, I do. It is shown that he had paid extra money to keep the video surveillances.
And yes or no, is it possible that the Ring notifications were silenced or ignored?
That is possible.
Moving on, how do you claim the victim was stabbed?
He was stabbed in the shoulder, holding the knife upside down.
And what angle was the knife at in the shoulder blade?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Was the knife at a downward or upward angle?
The blade was at upward angle.
Did the victim appear taller than the attacker?
Did the victim what?
Appear taller than the attacker.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is not an expert in this field.
Response?
I'll move on.
All right, thank you.
Yes or no, is it possible that the victim was seated and taken by surprise by the attacker?
It is not possible. There are many reasons that is not possible.
Thank you. Who removed the knife from the victim's back?
Someone from the crime lab. I was not there when that happened.
You previously claimed that the victim removes the knife from their own back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So yes or no, do you know for a fact that the knife was removed by the victim?
Yes, I do.
Yes or no? Did you look at any other suspects who fit the general height and build of the defendant shown in the surveillance footage?
I have not.
Ms. Kuzak, do you know who Blair Rowlands is?
I do know who she is.
Are you aware of her affiliation with the victim?
I am aware. He was.
Do you believe that Blair Rowlands had motive to murder Mr. Breckman?
I do.
Objection, Your Honor. Investigator Kuzak is not an investigator, and she is a crime scene reconstruction investigator. She does not speak to other possible theories of what could have happened. She speaks to her own formulated theories based on her reconstruction of the crime scene.
Response?
I'll move on, Your Honor.
All right.
Ms. Kuzak, was there any DNA evidence found at the scene of the crime?
There was.
Was it only?
Sorry.
Sorry?
Sorry.
Please continue your response. What were you saying?
There was blood splatter, but that was of the victim.
So there were not any DNA evidence of the perpetrator.
No, the perpetrator was wearing gloves, so there could not be DNA trace.
Thank you. And yes or no, is it possible that some of the conclusions reached by Professor Blake Van Owen fall outside your area of expertise?
That is correct.
Thank you so much. No further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Does the prosecution wish to call another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the prosecution would like to call Alex Cifuentes to the stand.
Ms. Cifuentes, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please state and spell your name for the court?
Alex Cifuentes, Sifuentes.
What is your occupation, Ms. Cifuentes?
I'm currently a senior at Colorado High School.
Did you know the defendant?
Yes, Avery and I were good friends.
Do you see the defendant here today?
Yes.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to request permission for the defendant to turn on her video camera.
Could the defendant please turn on the video camera? Go ahead.
Is this Avery Becker?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. Ms. Cifuentes, did you know the victim, Mr. Breckman?
Yes, he was my very talented mock trial coach. He taught me everything I knew about mock trial.
Ms. Cifuentes, I want you to go back to when you said you were a student at Colorado High School. Did you know a student who also went to Colorado High School named Blair Rowlands?
I knew that Blair went to Colorado High School, but I did not know Blair personally.
Did you witness any interaction between the defendant and Mr. Breckman?
Yes, they often argued at mock trial practices.
What was the relationship like between Mr. Breckman and the defendant?
Objection, speculation, hearsay.
Speculation or hearsay?
Speculation. She has no way of knowing the relationship between Breckman and Avery.
Counsel, response?
As Ms. Cifuentes just stated, she was good friends with the defendant, and she went to mock trial practices and was able to see what the relationship was like between the defendant and her mock trial coach.
She may answer according to her observations.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Cifuentes, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. What was the relationship like between Mr. Breckman and the defendant?
Yes, so they often argued, and eventually Mr. Breckman demoted Avery to the B team, but Avery somehow convinced her second best friend, Taylor Perkins, and she got back up on the A team. But eventually she was kicked off the team for good.
Were you there the day that the defendant was kicked off the team?
Yes, I was.
Can you please tell us more about that day?
Yes, Breckman was mad that Avery did not follow the script at regionals, and so Avery stormed off.
Objection, speculation. She has no way of knowing the emotions of Mr. Brackman.
Counsel, response?
Can my witness please proceed without explaining the emotions of the defendant?
Go ahead and respond, counsel. Ma'am.
Yes, so the defendant stormed out of the room and she wrote Worst Attorney Award on Mr. Brackman's car in permanent marker.
What happened between you and the defendant the day after the defendant was kicked off the team? Sorry, let me rephrase. What happened between you and the defendant after the defendant was kicked off the team?
Avery sent me text messages saying that she was going to trash Brackman's house.
Ms. Fuentes, do you have a copy of exhibit number 14 with you?
Yes.
Would you say that these are a fair and accurate representation of the text messages that you and the defendant sent to each other?
Yes.
What did the defendant say in the text messages?
The defendant said that she was gonna trash Brackman's house.
Okay, thank you. Let's turn back to the day before Mr. Brackman was murdered. Did you interact with the defendant at all the day before Mr. Brackman was murdered?
Yes, I saw Avery at the Fry Shack, and it was after a mock meeting, so a lot of mock trial people were there. And I told Avery how sorry I was that she got kicked off the team. And we were all just having fun, and Avery—
Objection, narrative.
Response?
Can my witness please be allowed to proceed with a shorter answer?
Why don't you just break up the questions and the answers a little bit?
Okay. So, Ms. Fuentes, you said you saw the defendant at the Fry Shack. Did you interact with the defendant at all at the Fry Shack?
Yes. There was this trendy new game on Avery's phone, and a bunch of people played on it.
Did you play on it?
Yes, I did.
Did you do anything else on the defendant's phone besides play games?
No, I did not.
Did you send any text messages on the defendant's phone?
No, I did not.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. Hello, Mr. Fuentes. I would just like to ask you a few questions to clarify the jury's understanding of the case. To start, Mr. Fuentes, would you say you were close with Avery, correct?
Yes, we were good friends.
And what was your relationship like?
Well, we were good friends. We hung out. We pushed each other to be better on mock trial.
Did you often hang out of school or outside of mock trial?
Sometimes, not always.
Do you have an example of any of these times you hung out outside of mock trial?
None so far.
All right. What was your relationship like with mock trial, Mr. Fuentes?
So my coach, Mr. Brackman, was a really good and talented coach, and he helped me grow and better, and I worked really hard on mock trial.
Objection, that is a non-responsive answer. The question was, what was your personal relationship with mock trial, not with Mr. Brackman?
Are you making an objection, counsel, or are you making a statement?
Objection, to strike that from the record.
All right, response?
I think my witness just misheard the question.
Repeat your question, counsel.
All right, what was your personal relationship with mock trial?
What do you mean by personal relationship?
Were you driven? What were your personal feelings towards mock trial?
I worked really hard on mock trial.
From what you observed, being so close with Avery, did you feel as though Avery worked just as hard as you?
We were both equally skilled, yes, but sometimes Avery didn't put in the work.
Do you believe Avery was deserving of her stardom that she received?
Objection, Your Honor. This is the witness's opinion.
Response?
She had previously clarified that she was close with Miss Becker, and it is also written in her affidavit that she has previously felt as though Avery was undeserving of this stardom.
Response?
The witness is testifying to something that she was feeling in the moment, and it's just what she thinks.
Overruled. She may
All right.
answer.
All right, so do you believe Avery was deserving of this stardom?
Not necessarily. I mean, she didn't put in the work, and
A yes or no will suffice, thank you.
she
All
was,
right,
sorry, go ahead.
I'll repeat the question. Do you feel as though Avery was deserving of the stardom, a yes or no?
I cannot answer with a simple yes or no.
All right, I'll move on. Do you think you were deserving of this stardom?
I mean, yeah, I put in a lot of work. The day Brackman sent out the
All
openings.
right, a yes or no will suffice, thank you though.
Okay.
Weren't you excited for a larger role once Avery left, correct?
Yes, I was very excited for the opportunity.
Now, did you have any resentment towards Miss Becker because of her taking that spot?
What do you mean by resentment?
Did you ever feel malice or upset that she got it and you didn't?
Sometimes, yes.
All right. And moving on to Exhibit 14, do you have a clear and unmarked copy in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Let the record reflect that the witness is expected to be looking at a clear and unmarked copy. Do you recognize this picture?
Yes, these are the text messages that Avery and I communicated with each other.
Do you still have these texts on your phone, yes or no?
No, I traded my phone in because it had battery problems.
Great. So do you have any way of proving the validity of these texts? A yes or no will do.
No.
Has anyone else except you seen the actual copy of these texts and not in a screenshot? Yes or no?
No.
All right. And you're a smart kid, Ms. Fuentes. Due to your experience in mock trial, what did you say that helps you in court today?
Can you please repeat the question?
Does your experience in mock trial help you in court today?
Yes.
All right. And as a great lawyer, wouldn't you say that this shows motivation for Ms. Becker? This Exhibit 14?
It shows that she wanted to go trash Brackman's house because she was mad.
So motivation on the first charge, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered, and my witness is not an expert on this.
Response?
I'll move on. All right. So would you say these texts weigh the case in your favor because it shows motivation for Ms. Becker?
Not motivation. These were the texts that we communicate with each other, and it shows that Avery was going to trash Brackman's house.
And are you aware of how easy it is to change the contact name on texts?
Yes.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Do the people have any other witnesses they wish to call at this time?
Not at this, excuse me, not at this time, Your Honor.
Do the people rest?
Yes, Your Honor, we do.
Right. Does the defense wish to call any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed with our first witness?
Who are you? Yeah, what's their name?
We call Blake Van Owen to the stand.
Ms. Van Owen, if you can raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you. Professor Van Owen, please state and spell your last name to the court.
My name is Blake Van Owen, V-A-N space O-W-E-N.
Professor Van Owen, what is your current employment?
I am currently a professor, a private investigator, and an expert witness.
And how long have you been involved in law enforcement?
Since about 2005, so 16 years now.
Where have you been employed previously?
I previously worked with the Aurora Police Department for from 2005 to 2006.
And why did you leave your previous employment?
I had an incident of misconduct, but that was solved through an agreement. But because of that, I left the police department.
Does this incident affect your job performance in any way?
No, it does not.
How many cases have you served as an expert witness in?
I have served as a witness in over 100 cases.
Thank you. Your Honor, motion to tender Professor Van Owen as an expert witness in police practices and forensic evidence techniques.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. May I please conduct a brief voir dire?
Certainly.
In your statement for this case, you included everything that you know of that is relevant to this case, correct?
Correct.
Nowhere in your witness statement do you mention being a certified CSR, do you?
No, but I have had experience in crime scene reconstruction, and I have served as an expert witness in over 100 cases for it.
However, you are not a certified CSR.
Nowhere does it state it in my affidavit, no.
And the class you teach is about police practices and social justice, correct?
Correct.
And you have a degree in criminal justice?
Yes, I have a master's degree in it.
And nowhere in your statement do you mention having a degree in criminology, do you?
Again, this is outside the scope of my affidavit, so I wouldn't
Nor
know.
do you mention having a degree in any kind of forensic science.
Not in my affidavit, no.
You only worked at the Aurora Police Department for 9 months, correct?
Correct.
And you hold no certificate in the areas of forensic data recovery, correct?
Not that I know of, because it's not in my affidavit.
Your Honor, the prosecution objects to Professor Van Owen being entered as an expert in the field of forensic evidence due to a lack of education and experience.
Your Honor, I feel this is unfair extrapolation. The prosecution asked my witness questions that were not in her affidavit and were outside of her scope.
All right. Well, then I've got to go to the unfair extrapolation questions, statements. All right, scoring panelists. You, the scoring panelists, are the sole arbiters of the dispute based upon your own individual observations, good faith judgment, and consistent with the intent of the judicial process. You may decide there was no extrapolation, or the statement was not unfair extrapolation, or the question did not ask for unfair extrapolation as it was not in the material, or the statement was unfair extrapolation, or the question was asking for unfair extrapolation as it was material. The ultimate decision is in the discretion of each of you individual scoring panelists. Consistently with your decision, you may award 1 or more points, deduct 1 or more points, or take no action at all with respect to any of the parties involved. If you determine that there was no unfair extrapolation, or that there was no question asking for unfair extrapolation, you may deduct 1 or more points from the objecting party if you believe that the objection was not made in good faith, was improvident, or was poor sportsmanship. Your decision is final. The court will allow her to testify as an expert witness. Go ahead with your direct counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Professor, why were you called here today?
I was called here today to testify, to provide my testimony on 3 things. One is that to no reasonable degree of certainty was Mackenzie Brackman stabbed in the middle of a struggle. The second is that the evidence does not establish that Becker's phone, let alone Becker, was at the crime scene. And the third is that the prosecution's case is not sound.
Thank you. And Professor Van Owen, you wrote an expert report of this case. Is that correct?
Correct. I made an expert report as shown in Exhibit 20.
Thank you. But the record reflects that the witness is expected to be looking at a clean and unmarked copy of what has previously been identified as Exhibit 20. Professor Van Owen, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, this is the expert report that I wrote concerning my investigations with the case.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission of Exhibit 20 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 20 shall be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Professor Van Owen, did you review the knife brand, style, and assailant position in this report?
Yes, I did.
I'd like to review the facts regarding the aforementioned knife. Can you describe the object in Exhibit 6?
Give me a moment to pull.
Of course.
I have the knife.
And does this knife match the other knives in the knife block shown in Exhibit 8?
It does not, no.
Do you believe that it is logical to assume that the murder weapon came from the knife block in Brockman's kitchen as Ms. Cusack claims?
Objection, leading.
Response?
May I rephrase the question?
Certainly.
Professor Van Owen, where do you believe the knife came from?
I believe the knife was brought along with the assailant.
And regardless of how the attacker acquired the knife, how do you claim the knife was gripped?
The knife was gripped with the blade facing upwards and
And at what angle do you claim the victim was stabbed?
in a downwards angle.
Did you notice anything about the comparative size and stature of the victim and attacker?
The attacker was not larger than Brackman, and in Cusack's case, for how to have the attacker attack the victim in the way that Cusack described, they would have to be of a larger stature, which the assailant is not.
Thank you, Professor. I would like to address the scuff marks on the floor. Do you recognize Exhibit 18?
Yes, I do.
Is it logical to assume that these scuff marks came from a struggle between the victim and attacker?
It is not logical to assume that, no.
Moving on to the ring notifications. Do you know whether Mackenzie Brackman had the ring set up to receive real-time notifications?
No, I do not know if he had it set up that way.
Is it possible that the notifications were ignored or not heard?
Yes, it is highly possible.
Thank you, Professor. Are you aware of the screenshot submitted by Alex Cifuentes shown in Exhibit 14?
Yes, I am aware of them.
Do you believe that these screenshots are authentic?
I do not believe so, no.
Can you explain to the jury how Cifuentes may have doctored these screenshots?
There are numerous ways that he could have.
Leading.
Response?
My witness has already testified that she does not believe that the screenshots are authentic, and I'm asking her to tell the jury why she believes that.
All right. Overruled. She may answer.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Can you explain to the jury how Cifuentes may have doctored these screenshots?
Since it was a screenshot, there are multiple things that Cifuentes could have done to doctor it. One, she could have changed the contact name to any phone number, meaning that she could have had someone else text it to her using a pre-written script, and then change the contact name to Avery Becker.
Thank you, Professor. I'd like to move on to the cell towers which receive signals from Avery Becker's phone. Do cell towers always connect to the nearest cell tower? Do cell phones always connect to the nearest cell tower?
No, they can connect to anywhere within a 38 square mile radius.
Is there another explanation to Avery Becker's phone connecting to the cell towers near Brackman's house?
The cell phone could have been near the cell tower or could have been on a route near it. If the phone was near a busy area, it could have also connected to a further away cell tower, the one near Brackman's house.
Did you inspect any individuals as suspects aside from Avery Becker?
Yes, I also conducted a small investigation into Blair Rowland.
Do you believe that it's possible that Alex Cifuentes or Blair Rowlands could have stolen Avery Becker's phone?
I think that is highly
Objection,
possible.
speculation.
Response?
This witness is an expert witness and can testify to the question.
Overruled. She may answer.
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes. Do you believe it was possible that Alex Cifuentes or Blair Rowlands could have stolen Avery Becker's phone?
Yes, I think it is highly possible in conjunction with the fact that Cifuentes also played with Avery's phone and had possession of Avery's phone the night before.
You previously testified that you are familiar with Blair Rowlands. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you tell us Roland's affiliation with the victim?
Blair Rowland's father was Jonathan Rowlands, a former client of Mackenzie Brackman.
And would you consider Blair Rowlands to have a motive for murder?
Yes, I do,
Objection, Your
because
Honor. This witness is not an expert regarding motive or this area.
Response?
I'll move on, Your Honor.
All right.
Professor, was Blair Rowlands absent from school on the day of the murder?
yes, she was.
And in your expert opinion, was the methodology used in the prosecution's case sound?
It was not. It had a lot of holes, and it seemed like they took one conclusion and ran with it before even considering the other pieces of evidence.
And finally, do you believe that Avery Becker is guilty?
No, I do not believe so.
Thank you, Professor. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. You had an incident during the 9 months you worked at the Aurora Police Department, correct?
That is true. Like I stated previously, I had a misconduct.
And this incident led you to leave the APD, correct?
Correct.
And in your witness statement, you claim to be a check of power of police.
Yes, that's what I wrote.
Professor Van Owen, you said you disagree with the police's investigation methods, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you said that you make a decent living revealing where the police have dropped the ball.
Correct.
And you earn a relatively large amount of money for testifying against the police?
I make quite a lot of money from private investigations, yes.
And you said that you could earn up to $10,000 for this case alone.
I think my estimation was closer to 8,000.
Objection, relevance.
Your Honor, I'm
Response?
trying to make it clear to the court that the witness will receive a profit for testifying against the police and in favor of the defendant in this case.
Overruled. You may answer.
And have you only ever testified as a defense witness?
Yes, that is true, but that's not something in my control.
You never visited the crime scene, correct?
No, because I don't have the jurisdiction to do so.
And you never interviewed the witnesses, correct?
No, because that was not an area of the investigation that I felt needed to be looked into.
And you based all of your conclusions on Markowitz's investigation, correct?
Yes, I took some of the things that I believed were correct, and I did my own investigation on the parts that I believed were not correct.
You said that cell towers don't prove location?
No, they're not like GPSs. They don't pinpoint exact locations.
However, you criticize Detective Markowitz for not collecting enough cell tower records.
Yes, because they have the burden of proof. So I assumed that they would collect all the evidence that was necessary to the case.
You also had access to the phone records for the day prior to the murder, but you chose not to access them.
No, I did not.
You did not have access to the phone records?
No, I did not access them.
You say that the defendant and Taylor Perkins were trying to locate Avery's phone on the day of the murder, correct?
Correct. I looked at Taylor Perkins' cell tower records, and that collaborated with their alibis.
You also said that Blair Rollins could have stolen the defendant's phone and driven to Mackenzie Brackman's house.
Yes, that was a possibility.
And your evidence for this is the cell tower records?
For which part?
For Blair Rollins having stolen the defendant's phone and driven to Mackenzie Brackman's house?
If we were going to go with the case that it connected to the nearest cell tower, yes.
And you claimed the messages between Alex Cifuentes and Avery Becker were doctored, correct?
Yes, because we have no way of verifying screenshots.
And you have no evidence to support this claim, correct?
Could you rephrase the question? I don't quite understand.
You have no evidence to support the claim that Alex Cifuentes doctored the text messages between her and Avery Becker, correct?
No, there was no way of verifying.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to call another witness?
We call upon Taylor Perkins to take the stand.
Ms. Perkins, if you can raise your right hand. I don't see Perkins.
Do you see me now?
All right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead when you're ready, counsel.
All righty. Ms. Perkins, could you please state your first and last name, spelling the last for the record?
Taylor Perkins, Perkins.
And why are you here today, Ms. Perkins?
I'm here to give my best insight into the murder of Mackenzie Brockman.
At the time of Mr. Brackman's death, you were a student, correct?
Yes, at that time I was a senior at Colorado High School.
And were you in any clubs or activities at CHS?
Objection.
Yes, I was in.
Leading the witness.
Response?
I asked if she was in any clubs or activities. I in no way insinuated what clubs or activities.
Overruled. She may answer.
I was involved in mock trial.
Who was the leader or coach of mock trial?
Mr. Brockman.
And how would you describe your personal relationship with Mr. Brockman?
I thought he was a very mediocre coach. And it was just a coach and student relationship.
Did you have any friends in mock trial with you?
Yes, Avery Becker.
And what was your relationship like with Miss Becker?
We're best friends. We do a lot outside of school together. We did a lot outside of school together, and she's the reason I joined mock trial.
And how would you describe her attitude for mock trial from being so close with her?
I know Avery as a more on the fly type of thinker. So she didn't really come prepared, but she always ended up coming on top, and her awards showed how good she was at what she did.
And from what you observed, being so close with her, did she ever confide in you, or did you ever observe any other members of the club feeling resentment because of this on the fly thinking?
Yeah, Avery would definitely talk to me.
This was a compound question.
I'll rephrase.
Go ahead.
So did Avery ever confide in you?
Yes, she did.
And did she ever confide in you about any other members of the mock trial team feeling resentment towards her?
I think I knew a lot about it, and that and the fact that Alex always wanted to be on top but wasn't able to.
All right. And did Mr. Brackman ever feel angry because of Avery's behavior from what you observed through his actions?
Objection, Your Honor. This is the witness's opinion. She does not know what Mr. Brackman was thinking at the time, nor can she testify to this.
Response?
She could see through his actions, but we can move on.
All right.
Did you ever observe any incidents between Miss Becker and Mr. Brockman?
Yes.
Who was often the one who initiated these hostile interactions?
Well, often Brockman would get angry at Avery for just not coming unprepared. He always said a good lawyer was prepared.
And did this feud ever escalate?
Yes, it did. One day, Avery got so mad, she wrote on Brockman's car. She even told me about it, and she said she wrote with a dry erase marker, and later we both found out that it was a permanent marker.
So she confided in you after this event?
Yes, she did.
And what was the punishment after this?
So after Avery wrote on his car, she was kicked off mock trial team.
And did Avery ever express to you that she felt remorseful?
She just kept trying to get back in the club. She just wanted to do whatever she could.
Did she ever express to you that she intended this act of vandalism, or more of a harmless prank on the Porsche?
It was more of a harmless prank.
And you previously said that Avery tried to rejoin. How did she go about doing this?
She had tried to reach out to Brockman, and one day she went to practice but was later kicked out.
Did she go to any of the other team members to try and rejoin?
Yes, she did. We talked a lot about it, and we even met up with some people at the Fry Shack who everyone thought and expressed they were um, they felt very bad for her and they thought it was very unfair.
Who were among these
Except
people?
Alex. So Alex was there, and he did not. He was being more passive aggressive, kind of like how he is.
And who is Alex to you?
Alex is just another member of mock trial. He is a junior and he tries very hard.
And you say that Avery often confides in you. Did you ever observe or hear from her that Alex Cifuentes was one of her close friends?
No.
Did she ever indirectly or directly express that she had positive feelings about Mr. Cifuentes?
Objection, Your
No.
Honor, leading the witness.
Response?
I'll rephrase.
Okay.
Often, how would Avery describe Alex to you?
She thought they were more like enemies because he always tried to come up on top and he tried very hard. And you could definitely see the tension between them.
And what did you observe about Alex's relationship with mock trial?
Alex tried very hard. He always came prepared and stuff, but he just never came up on top.
And from what you observed, do you believe that Avery would ever confide in Alex?
I do not believe so.
And from what you observed, does Alex have a personal ill will towards Avery?
I believe so.
And, sorry, 1 second. So the night of March 5th, did you see anybody?
The night of March 5th, you were saying?
Yes.
We at the Fry Shack?
Correct.
Yes.
And was Alex there?
Yes.
How did that interaction go between you guys?
Well, he was talking to Avery in a kind of passive aggressive way.
Objection, Your Honor. This is the witness's opinion. Alex could have been very sincere and the witness just thought he was being insincere.
Response?
I'll move on.
All right.
Did Alex sit at your guys' table?
Yes.
And did anything strange happen that night or the day after?
Yes. If anybody knew Avery, she cannot be without her phone, and we were not able to find it.
And did you spend the night with Miss Becker that night?
No.
The next day, what were you guys doing?
We were out searching for her phone.
And this was the whole day, correct?
Yes, you can track my phone, as I've said, just because we were searching for it all day and we were retracing our steps.
So you never weren't with Avery within this day?
No, I was with Avery the whole day after she came and got me.
And lastly, Ms. Perkins, do you believe in justice?
Of course.
Would you ever lie in a murder trial to protect a friend?
No, someone's life is at stake here.
And is your relationship with Miss Becker stronger than your will to catch the killer of your coach?
Definitely not.
Objection, Your Honor. The witness is contradicting herself. She just said that she didn't like her coach and that she loved her friend, the defendant.
Response?
I believe that she never specifically stated she disliked her coach. She said that he was a mediocre coach because she did not learn from him. And our witness has made it clear that she is more intact with justice than the upkeeping of her friendship with Miss Becker.
Overruled. Counsel, that's cross-examination, okay?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Perkins, you and the defendant were not fans of Mr. Brackman, correct?
I wouldn't say I wasn't a fan. I would just say he's a mediocre
A yes
coach.
or no answer will do.
I don't believe I can answer with a yes or no.
Okay, go ahead.
I believe that Mackenzie Brockman was a mediocre coach, but I will say that I don't think he made the best decisions for the team, and it's a team effort.
The defendant was furious with Mr. Brackman, right?
At what point?
Objection, speculation.
Response?
I think the witness was able to see through the defendant's actions whether or not she was angry with Mr. Brackman at all.
She is unable to know the emotions.
Overruled. She may answer. Overruled. She may answer.
Ms. Perkins, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Was the defendant at any point furious with Mr. Brackman?
I wouldn't use the word furious, but she was upset.
The defendant had previously damaged Mr. Brackman's vehicle in a fit of rage, correct?
Yes, but that wasn't the intention was not vandalism.
You also claimed that the defendant texted Avery to try to get back on the team. Is this correct?
May you rephrase the question?
You said that the defendant texted Avery to get back on the team, correct?
Yes.
You and the defendant.
Objection. That is an unclear question. The defendant is Avery.
Can you rephrase your question, counsel?
Yes, I can. So, Ms. Perkins, you claim that the defendant texted Alex to get back on the team, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You and the defendant did not like Alex, correct?
Yes.
You were good friends with the defendant. Is this true?
Yes.
Would you say that you would do anything for your friend, the defendant?
No.
Objection, asked and answered. She has already answered in previous testimony to this.
Overruled. She may answer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would you like me to repeat the question, Ms. Perkins?
Yes, please.
Would you say that you would do anything for your best friend, the defendant?
No, I would not say that.
Did you do mock trial to be with your friend, even though you stated you would rather be doing something else?
Yes, but it was a way for me to hang out with my friend.
Did you step down from the A team to be with the defendant?
I stepped down from the A team because
no answer will do for this question.
I don't think I can answer in a yes or no. I'm sorry.
Would you like me to repeat the question? Because
yeah. I don't think I can, but if you could rephrase it in a way that I could respond, yes.
Did you step down from the A team to be with your friend, the defendant? Yes or no?
No.
Did you skip school to help the defendant?
If you read my, as in my affidavit, we didn't have a reason to go to school that day. We weren't missing.
That wasn't my question, Ms. Perkins. I asked if you skipped school to help the defendant.
I wouldn't say skip school, but we did end up going out and I was helping her find her phone, yes.
So is it your testimony that you did not skip school to help the defendant?
No, I am not saying that.
What are you saying then?
We had a period off together and we had no reason to go to school that day. So we ended up.
But you weren't at school that day.
We were not at school that day.
And why did you skip school?
We wanted to look for her phone that was missing.
So, Ms. Perkins, you have given up a lot of important things for the defendant, haven't you?
Including, what would you explain?
So do you not think that school and mock trial are important?
As I've stated before, that day of school that we missed, I would not consider
But
that
you still
important.
missed school, correct?
What was that?
You still skipped school, didn't you?
Yes, but I don't consider mock trial very important to me, as I stated.
But you have done a lot of things that were against your self-interest and wrong for the defendant, correct?
Objection. What is the relevance of this?
Response?
Your Honor, I am trying to prove that if the defendant, that if Ms. Perkins is willing to do anything for her friend, the defendant, like skip school and move down from the A team in mock trial, then she would be willing to lie in court for her friend.
All right, you may finish your question and the defense witness may answer.
Okay. Ms. Perkins, would you say that you have done a lot of things that were against your self-interest and wrong for the defendant?
No.
So just to clarify, you do not think that skipping school is wrong?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. She may answer.
May you repeat the question, please?
You do not think that school is important?
I think school is important, yes.
And yet you skipped school to help the defendant?
Yes, but I think certain days of school are important and the days that have information in them.
So to be clear, you think your friendship is more important than school?
I never stated that.
Objection. Relevance. How is skipping school related to murder?
Your Honor, like I said
Response.
Your Honor, like I said before, I'm trying to prove that if Ms. Perkins was willing to skip important things for the defendant, then she would be willing to lie in court for the defendant.
I'll allow that response, but it's time to move on, counsel.
Okay, then no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
Yes, a brief redirect. So did Avery ever confide her intentions with you on the vandalism of the car?
Yes, we talked about it afterwards.
And what did she say to you?
She told me what she wrote on it, and she also told me that she used a dry erase marker.
All right, no further questions.
Thank you. Does the defense have any further witnesses they wish to call at this time?
Yes, the defense wishes to call upon witness Avery Becker, or actually, the defendant.
Ms. Spencer, if you can raise your right hand, please. Ms. Becker, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I proceed with my direct examination?
Certainly.
Thank you. Ms. Becker, thank you so much for being here today. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Avery Becker, Becker.
It has been alleged that you are a cold-blooded murderer. Are you?
No, I'm not.
So, Ms. Becker, let's get to the bottom of these absurd accusations with some basic information. Where did you attend high school?
Colorado High School.
And while at your time in Colorado High School, did you participate in any extracurricular activities?
Yes, I participated on the mock trial team.
And why did you decide to join mock trial?
Well, I've always found law interesting, and I also wanted to spend time with my best friend Taylor.
So, during your time on mock trial, did you receive any recognition for your participation on the team?
Well, I won an award, but Mr. Brackman never gave me credit for anything that I did.
So, following along with Mr. Brackman, what was your relationship with Coach Brackman like?
We didn't always get along because he thought I needed to work harder in mock trial.
How did Brackman act on his dislike of your approach towards mock trial?
He always criticized me and told me that I needed to help, or I needed to stop deviating from the script that we had created.
And what team were you on during your time at mock trial?
I was on the A team. until I was knocked down to the B team.
Did you want to be on B team?
No, I felt like I deserved to be on the A team since I was a senior, and I felt that that's where I belonged, not the B team.
And your friend Taylor that you mentioned earlier, did she stay on the A team?
Yes, she did.
And did Taylor remain on the A team for the entire duration of the mock trial season?
Yes. I'm sorry. No, sorry.
So what happened after Taylor quit?
Mr. Brackman brought me back onto the A team.
And did you attend any competitions during your time at mock trial?
Yes, I did. And when we went to regionals, I won the Best Attorney Award and was also named the Best Closer.
And how did Mr. Brackman react to your performance at the regional competition?
He started up like he always did, and he was really mad at me for not staying on the script that we had created. And in front of the whole team, he had told me that we only won because of my looks, and also said that I didn't deserve any of the awards that I won.
Objection.
Objection one, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Hearsay.
Response?
I would argue that this isn't necessarily hearsay because this is more directly about Avery's own personal emotions regarding to her relationship with Coach Brackman.
Overruled, she can answer.
Would you like me to re-answer that question?
Yes, please. Would you like me to re-ask it?
Yes, please.
How did Brackman react to her performance at the regional competition?
He was mad at me for not staying on the script that we had created, and he told me in front of the whole team that we only won because of my looks, and he also said that I didn't deserve any of the awards that I won.
I'm really sorry, Ms. Becker. I can understand how that could be really difficult. How did you react to Brackman's insults?
I called him the worst coach in the state. And I said that if it wasn't for me and a couple of the other people on A team, we would have lost nationals and we wouldn't even be going to state.
So, did you stay on the team after this occurrence?
I did not, because I took a marker that I thought was dry erase marker and wrote on the hood of Mr. Brackman's Porsche, Worst Attorney Award, and because of this, he kicked me off the team.
And after you committed this offense, how did you feel about your actions towards Brackman?
I felt awful, and I tried multiple times to apologize to him.
I can really tell you felt very guilty about that. Did you ever get the chance to apologize to Mr. Brackman?
No, I wasn't able to.
And after you were kicked off of the team, who would have replaced your position?
Alex Cifuentes, my teammate.
Now, Ms. Becker, I'll be moving on to the events leading up to Brackman's death. On the day before Brackman's death, March 5th, 2020, where were you?
I was at the Fry Shack, and I was with some friends.
Who specifically were you with?
I was with my best friend Taylor, and then some of the other people at the Fry Shack were from our team.
And the next morning after your experience at the Fry Shack, what did you do?
Well, when I woke up, I noticed that I didn't have my phone, and my best friend Taylor and I went to the Fry Shack and to the mall to go look for my phone.
Did you ever happen to find your phone?
No, I was not able to.
And Ms. Becker, did you happen to see anyone specific on your team at the Fry Shack?
On the 5th?
Yes.
Yes, I saw Alex.
And what is your relationship with Alex Cifuentes like?
Alex acts like we're friends, but I don't see Alex in a friend kind of way at all.
Would you ever imagine asking Alex for any sort of help?
No, I wouldn't.
And have you ever happened to communicate with Alex through any sort of internet communication, whether that be through text, call, anything similar?
Objection, leading.
Response?
I'll rephrase my question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Have you ever communicated with Alex?
Not that I remember, no.
Thank you. From what you know from being on a team with Alex, does Alex have any friends?
Blair Rollins was one of Alex's friends.
And are there any notable similarities between you and Blair Rollins?
We're pretty much the same build and size.
And from your observation of Blair, what was Blair's visible attitude towards Brackman?
Well,
Action, opinion.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm not asking Ms. Becker for her opinion. I'm asking for a simple observation. As I said, visible attitude towards Brackman.
Keep your response to your observations of their interactions.
can you re-ask the question, please?
From your observation of Blair, what was Blair's visible attitude towards Brackman?
Blair looked like she really hated Mr. Brackman because he lost the case that put Blair's father into jail.
Now, Ms. Becker, to put it simply, do you hate Mr. Brackman or have any ill feelings for him, for that matter?
No, I don't.
And have you done anything to Brackman other than writing on his car with a permanent marker?
No, and I thought that it was a dry erase marker. I didn't know that it was permanent.
Thank you. Questioning is complete.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Your Honor, before I begin, may I request a time check?
Certainly. Timer, if you could post it in the chat.
Thank you.
Go ahead, counsel.
Ms. Becker, you were a member of the Colorado High School mock trial team all 4 years of high school, correct?
Yes, I am. I was.
And in your own words, your deceased coach, Brackman, would commonly refer to you as lazy, correct?
That is true for I did not always prepare in the way he had hoped that I would, but I performed very well at the actual competitions.
And you and Coach Brackman would argue at almost every practice, correct?
Yes, because he didn't agree with the way that I prepared for different trials.
You would commonly say things to Mr. Brackman like, I would tell him that he wouldn't know a good cross if it hit him over the head, correct?
Yes, but yes.
A yes or no would be fine. Thank you.
Yes.
Coach Brackman often questioned your work ethic, didn't he?
Yes.
And as a result of your work ethic, Brackman demoted you to the B team.
That is true.
And Taylor Perkins then suddenly quit, so Brackman was given no other option than to put you back on A team. Is that correct?
I assume so.
Objection,
Yeah.
Your Honor. In proper lay opinion, Avery Becker is not able to determine the motivations or thought process of anybody else other than herself.
Response?
Your Honor, this question is not designed to inform the jury of the reasoning behind Ms. Taylor Perkins' resignation from the A team to the B team. It is merely just trying to establish a sequence of events that occurred.
Overruled. She may answer.
Would you like to repeat the question, Ms. Becker?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Taylor Perkins then suddenly quit so that Brackman was given no other option to put you back on A team?
Yes.
And shortly after rejoining the A team, you and Mr. Brackman had another big fight, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
And this fight ended with you vandalizing Brackman's car and writing Worst Attorney Award across the hood in a black permanent marker?
I thought that it was dry erase marker, and I was trying to offer going to get a job. That way I could fix the hood, and I was trying to make it a point that I would help in any way I could to make the situation better, but I never got the chance to tell him that.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. And then Brackman kicked you off the team as a result of this occurrence, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
And in a conversation with your mother after you were removed from the team, you told her you would get back at Brackman if it was the last thing you ever did, correct?
I did, in fact, say that.
Ms. Becker, do you have a cell phone?
I do, but I lost it on March 5th.
And when you did have your phone, your parents were fairly restrictive about when you could use it, weren't they?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled. She may answer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, of course. When you did have your phone, your parents were rather restrictive when you could use it, weren't they?
You could say that, yes.
And one of the reasons you claim to enjoy mock trials so much is because you and Taylor Perkins could text each other from across the room on your phones, according to lines 21 and 22 of your witness statement, correct?
That is true, yes.
Would you agree that, like most other teenagers, your phone is important to you?
I would say that, yes.
However, on the day of Brackman's murder, your phone conveniently disappeared, didn't it?
It did, but Taylor and I were trying to find it that whole day.
No further questioning, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Ms. Becker, you did indeed write on Brackman's car with a permanent marker, correct?
I did, but I did not know that it was permanent. I thought it was dry erase.
And what actions did you take to try to fix this action?
I tried to.
The witness already testified to the actions that she took to make up for this.
Overruled. She may answer.
Can you please repeat the question?
And what actions did you take to try to remedy your mistake?
I tried multiple times to apologize to Mr. Brackman, and I even was going to get a job that way I could afford to help fix the hood of his car. And I, if possible, I understand that it's permanent marker now, but I was willing to try to scrub it off if that was possible too.
And in regards, what day did you lose your cell phone?
I lost it March 5th and noticed that I did not have it when I woke up March 6th.
And what was, in your understanding, what was the day that Brackman was murdered?
From what I heard, March 6th.
Thank you. And one final question. Would you consider a knife to be equivalent to a permanent marker?
I would not.
Relevance?
Response?
Your Honor, we've established that the defendant wrote on the hood of the car of Mr. Brackman's white Porsche. However, I am asking simply to determine if those two events correlate at all, and if those are two equivalent actions in Becker's mind.
She can answer.
I don't think those are anything alike.
Thank you. No further questions. The defense rests their case.
Thank you, counsel. Do the people have any rebuttal they wish to put on, or do they rest in close?
We rest in close, Your Honor.
Does the defense rest in close as well? Does the defense rest in close as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
All right. Does the prosecution wish to submit a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
And Your Honor, I would just like to re-clarify to make sure that any remaining time be reserved for rebuttal.
Certainly.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today you have heard the story of a young girl who made a bad decision. Today, the prosecution has shown you three things. First, the crime scene evidence points to the defendant. Second, the crime scene and other evidence was analyzed by two of our expert witnesses. And third, the defendant had strong motive. Our witnesses have testified to a complex analysis and examination of any and all evidence in this case. Our expert crime scene reconstruction investigator, Kyle Kuzak, utilized this evidence to reconstruct the crime scene. She used this evidence to form theories and, with assistance from Detective Jordan Markowitz, concluded all evidence examined points to the defendant having committed these horrible crimes. Today, we have learned of the complicated and unstable relationship between the defendant and her mock trial coach, Mr. Brackman. This relationship was so toxic, the defendant went so far as to vandalize Mackenzie Brackman's prized possession vehicle and write Worst Attorney Award across the hood of the car in permanent marker. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me remind you there are 6 requirements to convict someone of second-degree burglary. Those requirements are as follows: that the defendant in the state of Colorado, at or about the date and place charged, knowingly broke an entrance into, entered unlawfully in, or remained unlawfully after a lawful or unlawful entry in a dwelling with intent to commit therein the crime of criminal mischief against another person or property. Throughout the trial proceedings today, Alex Cifuentes identified Avery Becker as this defendant. Our expert witnesses, Detective Jordan Markowitz and investigator Kyle Kuzak, walked the court through the events that transpired at the Brackman residence on March 6, 2020. You heard about texts that were sent directly from Avery Becker, explaining her intent to break into Brackman's home and trash it. You saw ring security footage that shows the defendant unlawfully entering into the Brackman residence. Similarly, there are 6 requirements to convict the defendant of murder in the first degree. It is required that the prosecution has proved to you that the defendant, in the state of Colorado or at about the date and place charged, acting alone or with one or more persons, committed or attempted to commit second-degree burglary in the course or in furtherance of the crime of second-degree burglary that the defendant was committing or attempting to commit, or in the immediate flight therefrom, the death of a person other than one of the participants was caused by anyone. Our expert witnesses and investigators have shown you Avery Becker's motive, texts that explain her plan to break into Mackenzie Brackman's home, a quote from the defendant's very own witness statement where she said that she would get back at Brackman if it was the last thing she ever did. You saw the security footage of the defendant breaking in, and now, ladies and gentlemen, you see her in court today. The prosecution has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Avery Becker is guilty of these crimes. Now, the justice that the deceased Mr. Brackman receives lies in your hands. Brackman was a mock trial coach with a passion for helping high school students to understand the importance of law. As a result of his selflessness, he finds himself lying in the morgue. The defendant is a high school student who has received the Best Attorney Award for the mock trial from the Mock Trial Association. Ladies and gentlemen, she knows the law, yet in a fit of rage, she still chose to break it. Mackenzie Brackman's life was cut short in an act of violence and aggression committed by the defendant. And today, the prosecution asks that you give the defendant the ability to learn from her bad choices. The only way to give the defendant this opportunity is by returning a verdict in favor of the prosecution and finding the defendant guilty of all charges. Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor,
I got it. Does the defense wish to provide a closing argument at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
All right. Members of the jury, today we relive the tragic murder of the esteemed lawyer and devout teacher Mackenzie Brackman. The defense wants nothing more than justice and peace for Brackman and his family, but we want the real killer to be prosecuted. Today, the prosecution opened their closing statement by saying one bad decision led to another, and then finally to the killing of Mackenzie Brackman. This is what is known as a slippery slope logical fallacy. Let's make one thing very clear. A permanent marker is not a knife, and the prosecution's case and evidence lays nothing but doubt in the trial against Ms. Becker. Today, the prosecution showed you that their case was founded on one piece of evidence, a piece of evidence that Detective Markowitz, the detective assigned to this case, has not seen and still has yet to see himself. The investigators had picked their suspect even before they analyzed the evidence in front of them. The prosecution will try and have you believe that the murder is a crime over a petty mock trial feud, when the whole entire case is set up around a piece of evidence that could easily be faked by a boy who had previous resentments towards Ms. Becker. They will have you believing Ms. Becker's mistaking a Sharpie for a dry erase marker is enough grounds to convict her of murder. Today, the defense showed you that not only does their case have a surplus of holes and fallacies, but the investigation into the murder was rushed and targeted. She showed you another possible suspect that also was not present that day in mock trial. The suspect not only had motive, as we saw, but also had means with a similar build to Avery and vengeful aggression, but also opportunity, also not being at mock trial that day. We showed you that the murder was premeditated and planned. We showed you that it was planned ahead of time, and just as the murder wanted, the investigators fell right into the trap. We supplied you with another witness that showed the remorseful nature of Avery and spoke about her true nature, along with giving Avery an alibi for that day. This witness also supplied you with evidence that she was with her. The prosecution's case is simply not strong enough to convict without further investigation into this case. It is your civil duty as the jury to ensure that the right person is prosecuted and an innocent girl with a bright future is not sacrificed for the sake of a rush case. Mackenzie Brockman's life legacy was his students, and here we are with 3 of those students today, one of which is at stake for the rest of her life. Let the murder of Mackenzie Brockman be the only tragedy that faces Colorado High School mock trial team, and declare Avery not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Thank you, counsel. Do the people wish to present a rebuttal argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, the opposing counsel has presented a closing statement in which they accuse the prosecution of basing our entire argument on one piece of evidence. But as you've heard through our expert witness examinations, our witnesses carefully and craftily considered every piece of evidence that was provided in this case and collaborated to form a comprehensive analysis and opinion of the events that transferred. Our 2 expert witnesses agree on a theory that the defendant Avery Becker is guilty of these crimes. Additionally, the defense relies on an entire argument based on the hypotheticals of Professor Blake Van Owen, while the prosecution offers a much stronger argument that has the integrity and officiation of 2 expert witnesses. Finally, I would like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that you are allowed to have some doubt in this case. And I truly believe that the prosecution has proven to you today that Avery Becker is guilty on all charges.
Thank you, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, folks, good job. Very good job. I'll make some general comments while the scores get their scores together. And if you folks scores, once you've gotten your scores done, if you could just flash onto the screen and let me know with the thumbs up, then we can get going on any comments that you wish to make at that time. You're done, Mr. Good. All of the participants, if you can go ahead and put your videos on. I much prefer seeing kids than trying to talk to you with numbers. I'm old-fashioned. All right. Just a couple of very general comments. You guys have really good scripts and really good things to say, but listen to the answers, because sometimes they don't answer the way that you anticipated. And then your next question doesn't really make any sense because of the way they answered. So you really have to listen to the answers. I used to teach misdemeanor attorneys, and I've always taught them it's more of a conversation than a bullet point. So make sure you listen to the answers, because sometimes they give you really good answers that you can go down that road of and really help your case. So really be careful and listen to those answers. Everybody needs to do that as much as they can. That's really important. And another general comment with regard to the rules of evidence and then the facts of your case. Those are 2 really different things, right? You spend a lot of time reading through the facts of your case, but then there was all these rules of evidence that you had to learn when you made objections and when you sustained objections and when you overruled objections. You guys know the facts of your case down pat. Don't stress about that anymore. Don't worry about that anymore. You've got it. Focus on the rules of evidence. Most of the times when I was doing the overruled, it wasn't so much that it was a bad objection, or a bad response, but it was the wrong objection or the wrong response. In other words, your timing was good. You knew there was something wrong with what they were saying or what the answer was, but you didn't know exactly what the rule was that applied to it. The better you get that down, and I've done state and I've seen the people, the better you get that down, the better you guys are going to get scored, the better that you're going to seem as an attorney. So get those rules down as good as you can, okay? That'll really help you because you know your case. Don't stress about it. You know your case. Just get the rules down and you'll be good. Is everybody done? Do we have thumbs up from everybody? All right. Ms. Bradburn, if you want to make your first comment.
Thank you, Your Honor. I really enjoy getting to watch everyone. Similar to really what the judge was saying, I felt the same way, making sure that you're learning those objections and hearing the objections, that your response are on point with that piece. Also making sure that you're utilizing, there are only a couple of you who did the redirects within there. Make sure you utilize those. I appreciate those, as well as the chance. Ms. Lawson, you did the voir dire. I appreciate getting into and taking those extra steps to show those. That looks great within there. But really considering the fact that we had very few problems with the technical issues this time, we did some screen shares and whatnot, and having been in trial for quite a long time now on WebEx, you guys did a great job with handling those and being able to really address through the camera and communicate with one another. So similar to what the judge is saying, work on those objections and the responses to those. But you guys did great, and I really enjoy getting to watch it every year.
Ms. Nunez?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I agree. And this is tough. It's tough to do it in this virtual setting with masks on and not having your team sitting next to you to help you with an objection or moving forward. I agree with everything that the judge and Ms. Nilaseta has said. I had a couple other comments. First of all, watch your facial expressions. You give away a lot to us as we're watching you. If you're like, oh, did I get that right? Or I'm not sure if that's what I'm supposed to do. Definitely pay attention to when you are responding to objection. I felt like the minute things didn't go as you expected them to do and you were off the rails, you were spiraling instead of trying to say, okay, this is what my objection is. And be careful with how you treat your witnesses. So your direct witnesses should do all the talking and you should do very little of it. And your cross-examination, you should be controlling them. But controlling them doesn't mean cutting them off mid-sentence. It doesn't mean saying just yes or no, because that gets really old for us on the jury. We can't hear it. And as you do this competition, that's going to be things that they use against you. So, kind of watch your yes or no, or is that correct? That kind of terminology that you kind of build into this. Think more like having this as a conversation with the witness while controlling them and listening to them. And a couple of times, I think in cross-examination, the witness said, well, let me explain, and you let them. And I'm like, wait a minute, you never let a cross-examined witness do their own thing. You want to control them as much as you can. But fantastic job, and especially in this arena. I wish we could see all your faces. I definitely miss seeing everyone's face, and half of you are masked up. You can take off your mask for a second and just wave at us. But thank you. But fantastic job, you guys. I know this is really tough, and I'm looking forward. I'm judging state too. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
Mr. Milan?
Thank you, Judge. Thanks, everybody, for your effort in this. I know it's a tough thing. It's difficult as a litigator when the kids in high school are already better trial attorneys than you are. So I struggle a little bit with all of your expertise. But a couple of things, and of course, going last, everybody's already made the same comments I did. Just a couple of comments. Since we're the jury, be very careful on how aggressive you are. And there was a couple times I thought that in real life, as a jury member, I would be put off with an argumentative, aggressive lawyer right out of the box. So just be careful. Remember that you're speaking with a jury, and the conversational component of it that one of the other judges mentioned is very important. And one of the things too, be careful about being condescending. One of the questions asked was, well, now you're smart. And so when you do that, as a juror, I look at that and go, well, wait a minute, that's kind of condescending. You need to be careful. Remember, it's the jury that's actually listening to all the evidence, but everybody did just a wonderful job, and thanks so much for allowing us to participate.
Thank you. To follow up a little bit with his comments, let me give you a little background. I was, before I became a judge, I was a prosecutor for 25 years, and I've probably tried close to 300 felony jury trials, and then now on the bench. And the one thing I would say, you don't know if the jurors really like that witness or really don't like that witness. And when you start assuming one way or the other, that's when you start going down the wrong road. Because if they really like the witness and you start beating them up, they're like, ooh, I don't like that attorney, right? Because they're going to stay with who they like. So you want them to what? Like you. So even when you're tearing someone apart, be super nice, super polite, and let the jury say, oh, that person's being evasive, or, oh, that person, I thought I liked them, but they're not really answering the questions that are being asked. Let them reach that conclusion, because you don't know what they're thinking right then. And along with that, I heard sometimes that the witnesses were just called by their last names, like Cifuentes. Be respectful. Miss Cifuentes, ma'am. I have defendants come in my courtroom all the time. I always call them sir, ma'am. I'm always, no matter what they did, very respectful. Okay, that will get you so many brownie points. So make sure, you can rip them up and down, but be polite about it, right? Anything else anybody else has to say? You guys really, seriously, we're telling you these things because you're doing so good that all you need to do now is tweak. You're really good, all of you. And I watched all the Arapaho ones, and you can give them all a run for their money. And I hope you do, honestly. So good luck to you guys in the next round. I hope you can make it on to the next level and beat up a little bit on Arapaho County, right? Good luck to you guys. Thank you. You can all log off now. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, thank you.